Hi, I'm artist and SAIC professor Jason Dunda, and this is part 2 of the early college program collage workshop, Techniques of Collage. In this video, I'm going to walk you through some of the basic techniques of collage. Now, I'm sure you've all cut paper and used glue before, but I'm hoping that when I go over some of these basics, you'll find some details that will give you some good learning, raise your collage game, and take you to the next level. Hope it's going to be helpful. I'm also going to try and make a quick collage in 5 minutes, but no promises on that being any good. We'll see. So I'm going to demonstrate cutting, and then we'll look at how to glue. Now the first thing, and we remember this lovely tool here, the first thing to think about when using any kind of cutting tool is safety. You really cannot be too careful or too aware of what your body is doing and what your material is doing. So I recommend standing while you cut. Looking directly over your workspace is usually better than looking across it. But for fine detail work, you probably need to sit down. Also, depending on how tall you are and how tall your table is, more control might happen from sitting. But just be aware that you need to be in control. You need to be able to see what you're doing. Good light is important, things like that. One final note on safety, you've got to really watch out for your non-dominant hand. So I cut with this hand. This is the hand that is more likely to sustain an injury because this hand is your clamp while you're cutting, right? And then also, whenever I cut, I take off the cap. Whenever I'm not cutting, I put the cap back on or I retract the blade. That's something that is really good to get into the habit of doing. It makes sense. So, knife safety. Also, a sharp knife is best to get cut with and then also to work with. The quicker and the easier you can get through your material, the better. Now, that's how to cut. Why do we cut? And when do we cut? And where do we cut? So these are just a few things. I just do kind of free cuts throughout all of my materials. So I like to edit out parts that I find interesting. I'm really interested in color and pattern. So that's what I tend to cut when I'm cutting. I really like this wavy pattern in the water. So that might be something I can save for later. So really, when I'm going through a lot of my materials for collage, all this paper that I was talking about last time that you should have on hand, I'm just really interested in kind of editing down to the things that are most essential to me. This is one of the most important parts of that thing. And I could probably throw away the rest. So that's when to cut. And so after you've got a lot of elements to work with, this is when I usually do a dry placement. And here's a little something I glued down before the show. And let's see. So this is where I kind of move things around, decide what goes where. I don't think that works. Does this work? No. Does this work? So again, I'm just making decisions, but there's nothing. Oh, I like that. That's really interesting. There's really nothing at stake here because nothing's glued down, nothing's permanent, so you can just kind of play around. And I tend to go element by, oh, okay. That's my decision. I'm making that decision. So I think we're ready to glue that down. So, and usually I would have a separate area for cutting and a separate area for gluing. I usually don't glue on the surface of my cutting board, but for this circumstance, I will. So, gluing, and you remember this wonderful technology here, our glue stick. The one thing that you need to keep in mind that's going to raise your game is make sure that you don't get glue on the surface of the thing that you're gluing, right? And in order to ensure that as best as possible, I am doing strokes from the inside out, because if I went from the outside in, this glue would kind of gunk up on the edges and would probably show in the final version. And I don't want that. Okay, so I think we've got that. Discard that. And so I did that dry placement, and I remember it was kind of along this edge right here, and I want this line to kind of line up with this more or less. So let's see, oh, I like that, there. See, so I'm prepared because I did my dry placement. Need to do a little bit of extra there. There. Now, so I'm 2 steps into this collage. And that essentially is the basics. I want to show you one extra technique that's kind of like drawing and collage combined. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this Disney kids book that I was really interested in. So this is the image I want to work with. I'm actually going to flip it over, and I want to kind of put my own hand in it. And I'm literally going to do that. I'm going to draw on top of this with some ink. And let's do like, this is just the kind of gesture that I usually paint with or draw with. Let's do that and see how that works. Okay. So that's just a gestural abstract thing that I'm doing. So, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out anything that the ink didn't go on. And so I'll actually have like a brush stroke to place on a collage, right? So part of this will be cut out. I did some of these before the show. That's one with another page from that same book. So I did that gesture and then cut it out. And I'm actually, when I did that, I was actually way more interested in the frame that happened around this. And let's see what happens when we place that. Ooh. Okay, I kind of like that. I like how this curve goes with this curve here. And do you see how it's actually a little bit confusing where one piece begins and the other piece ends? That's something that I'm really, really interested in with collage. So I'm going to keep playing with this. All right. So that's a quick overview of some of the basic techniques for collage. In the next video, I'm going to give you a quick art history lesson. We're going to look at a few contemporary artists who work in collage. If you have any questions or comments, or if you even just want to show us your work, you can email us at ecp@saic.edu. That's the early college program at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. Please tune into our other videos, and thanks for watching.